Hello and welcome aboard the Knitty Stew podcast. My name is Leanne. I am the Knitty Stew. Stew is short for stewardess. I am a Canadian flight attendant and a knitter, and this is my YouTube channel where I bring you on the road. We visit local cities that I overnight in as part of my job, and we visit yarn stores, and sometimes I throw in fun facts about the places that I get to stay in. So welcome if you are new to my channel, and welcome back to the fiber friends that have shown up here in this community. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I hope you enjoy this episode number 38. I can't believe that this is episode 38. How is it even 2025? I don't even know. For anyone new, I am the Knitty Stew on Instagram, Ravelry, and here on YouTube. And in my videos, I put chapters so that if there's any content or stuff that you're just not interested in, you can skip on through and find what you are interested in. Because time is our most precious commodity, 100%, and it is flying. So, hi everybody. I'm on decaf today. It's actually kind of bougie too. I'm drinking a pistachio oat milk latte, extra hot, light foam. I was feeling fancy today, and it has to be decaf because the flight back to Calgary, which is where I live, is the pickup is 4:45 a.m. So I get up good and early so I can meditate, journal, and get myself sorted. So that my wake up is 3:25 tomorrow. So if I drank caffeine at any time in the day, the night before that, I just don't sleep. Or I could fall asleep, but then I'll wake up later. So it's decaf for me today. I hope that you have some knitting projects you can work on, or some spinning, or whatever craft you might be up to today, and maybe bougie or not beverage to join me for the plenty of knit chat today. So December and everything has been a bit of a blur. We had the little bit of a rough holiday season. My mother-in-law, who had a stroke several years back, has never quite got full health since that occurred a few years back, but on the 13th of December, she ended up in the hospital, and she's still there now. They're monitoring her condition, where her blood pressure went down, she had an infection, all the things, and she's a fighter. So we have spent a ton of time, basically since the 13th of December until now, visiting her there. So we're pulling for her, and until there's any more information or a change in her condition, we just do what we do. And what I do, and I'm sure many of you can relate, is I channel any tension, worry, stress from my heart right into my knitting. So I knit like the dickens in the last few weeks, and I have a ton to show you. So I can't chat too long. No chitty chat. We got to get right to the finished objects. And then I'll show you my whips, some footage from where I am today, which I should probably tell you. Hi, did I already tell you this? That I'm in Kitchener? I don't think I did. I'm in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, which is in Southern Ontario. This is the third and final installment that I'll do from this area. I was out here in, I think, November. Yeah, I believe my November episode. I drove about an hour and 40 minutes to Toronto to visit the knitting loft. And then the next time I was here, I had plans to visit a couple yarn shops in the area, but I had just made it out to see the new yarn store here in Kitchener called the Flying Squirrel. And then this time, I was finally able to get out to see Galt House of Yarn. And I had a great day there yesterday, and I also whipped into the area and saw another yarn store. So I have footage of that, and then we'll wrap up the episode for today. So let's get started. My first finished object is what I'm wearing. The other finished objects are small gift items, so this is the only actual large garment, I would say, of the episode today. And I had this as a work in progress. I started it on October 22nd, 2024. Now, it didn't take me that long, honestly, but I put it on pause while I went into a gift knitting and sock knitting frenzy. So once I got to it, it really didn't take that long. So I'll put some footage of it here. What it is the Emsworth vest by Isabell Kraemer, and I knit it out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is one of my favorite yarn bases. which is it's a fingering weight, but for me I can get like a DK weight because it's very lofty, as a woolen spun American Targhee Columbia wool. I knit it in the colorway cast iron. It took me less than 3 skeins. It was 2.84 skeins, which is a total of 142 grams, 781 yards. Now the gauge in the pattern was 24 and 36, and I got 20 and 31. So I knitted on a larger needle as well. So I knit with a US 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter for the main portion. And then for the ribbing, I used a US 2.5, which is a 3 millimeter needle. And thanks to the tip by a Ravelry guy who I've been following and just absolutely love his page, Ionai, he suggests using even a needle size smaller for picking up the ribbing. And I gotta say, I'm so pleased with how that part turned out, because when I was thinking about picking up ratios and how to work that, that's not something I'm really good at. And I feel like using that one needle size smaller just made it very, very tight and tidy, because sometimes it can be gapey or floppy, and this one sits just right. I will note too that to style this, I tried on all the different like long sleeve blouses and collars and all the things, and I actually found that I liked the way it looked best with this plain black t-shirt, little mock neck shirt that I have here. Maybe it's because, you know, as using black yarn with flecks in it, it just, when I wore a white underneath it, it just, you couldn't quite make out the texture pattern, so it was just a little bit distracting. I did also leave off the lace panel that goes on the back, and just, again, I wanted a basic black vest, and I didn't want it to be super duper boring, and I can generally rely on Isabell Kraemer for fit. So this garment is knit, you start at the back and you knit across the shoulders, and you do some shaping around the neck, and then you knit to underneath the arm, like where the arms are gonna join eventually. So once you finish the back, you put that on hold, and then you pick up and you work the front panel down, and then you join under the arms and do the rest of the lace panel and the whole vest in the round. And it is also charted and written, which is very good if you don't like a chart, but the panel isn't very big. I just made sure that I put in little stitch markers so I would remember when to do the purl and to begin the panel. And also for the faux seam, which is, it's just a purl stitch all the way down. Kind of a cool little detail, and I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. I would definitely make it in a lighter color where you could actually see the lace and texture, but for now I'm just really happy with where it sits and how it looks on me. I'm loving it. I didn't do any special bind offs either. I bound off in pattern, which is actually what Isabell Kraemer says to do, and it's good. I think it's really good. So anyway, that's my first finished object, the Emsworth vest. Before I jump forward, I forgot to mention that I knit the size 1 in the pattern because I was off gauge. So normally I would probably make a size 3 if I was on gauge, which I never am. And so there are 9 sizes available in the pattern. And the other thing I didn't do, which is included as an optional thing, is A-line shaping. And I like the ease, I like the way it was fitting me, and that's why I didn't do any of those things. Okay, that's it, and onward. My next finished object is my happy place. I did a test knit of the iris hat for Trin-Annelie, and here it is. It is a fingering weight design, and designed with the same motif as her iris pullover, which is also just absolutely stunning. She designs it using Holst Super Soft, and I used varieties of Jameson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight and some Bichet Bouche, and I actually used my Marie Wallin skein that I got at the Knitting Loft right here. I will put a picture of my colors that I chose, because I mean, this might look intricate to some people, but the hardest part for me was picking colors. You need 7 colors, and it was, I started it December 7th, and I cast off on December 14th, because once you start, you can't stop. But I did one version, and I got to about here, And I was like, no, it wasn't showing off the flowers, like the iris motif. So I started over. Color play is hard, I find. She also includes a coloring chart at the back, so you could play with your pencil crayons and decide on your colors and just really have a good time with it. I think the motif itself, just want to show off the crown. How beautiful is that? These irises go all the way to the top. And it comes in 3 sizes. I'm going to put this on for you. And there you go. Could barely see the beginning around, and that is because I use the spit splicing technique for color changes. She also has it in the pattern and a video tutorial. I recently used that for the handkerchief. Gudrun Johnson also does a tutorial on spit splicing with color work. That's a lot less ends to weave in, or even tying knots is a thing of the past once you get that figured out. So I made, let me get my notes here. I made a size 1, and I made the beanie version and the short length. So there is 3 sizes to this pattern, and there's just multiple customizations that you can do that she includes. It's a 13-page pattern, so it's detailed. You can choose your hat style, so the shape. So slouch, semi-slouch, or beanie, which I chose. And then the brim, you can have a regular short brim, which I did I did an extra short brim because I know sort of the height of my hats. I've done a lot of Islesburg Tory hats, and by a lot I think 2. And like just wool week, Shetland wool week, this fine gauge type beanie colorwork stuff is my jam. So I've done a few, and I knew how long I wanted it to be. And then I did the short version. So you can choose that. She also includes a chart where you can check your gauge, and based on your gauge, you can pick your size, which is fantastic. The pattern is fully charted. I will mention that. Oh dear. We're vacuuming next door. Okay, might have to take a little pause there, and I'll be back. I think housekeeping is finished. Vacuuming next door. Bless them. Bless anyone that does the housekeeping around here. That's a big job. But yeah, I just paused for a second because it was really loud. The walls are not that thick. Back to the beanie. What was I going to mention? Oh, the gauge. The gauge in the pattern. So the gauge in the pattern is 28.5 and 34 rounds on a US 4 or 3.5 millimeter needle. There's absolutely no way in the world I would ever get that gauge. Even I went down to a US 3.25 millimeter needle, and my gauge was still 26. I don't know. I'm a relaxed knitter. I'm going to steal that from It Is a Sarah's podcast. And for the color work itself, I do use my handy dandy trusty little Clover yarn guide, which I got on Amazon. And I don't trap my floats, although in the charts, Trin-Annelie includes suggestions of where to catch your floats, and also she puts in a note for color dominance and how to hold your yarn for the color dominance. So very detailed, very thoughtful pattern, and I would definitely recommend giving it a try if you're feeling adventurous and you want a beautiful colorwork beanie. Okay, my other finished objects I should be able to zip through pretty darn quick because woot woot, all aboard the sock knitting train. Chugga 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 chugga. Here's the first pair that I made in I don't know, 7 or 8 days. So this is the basic sock pattern number 1, heel flap and gusset from Summerlee Knits, and I knit these in Volkova Arvetta, which I had ordered a while back from Galt House of Yarn online. They are the only Canadian, maybe North American, I'm not sure, but the only retailer where I could get the Volkova Arvetta. And I use this is called Red Fox, I believe. Red Squirrel. Red Fox, Red Squirrel. Red Squirrel, and then this is Marzipan. I just finished up the toe with that extra little bit. What I will say is, because I'm just jumping on this kind of a hardcore sock train rabbit hole, is that I'm learning what I like. For this pair, I used a US 0, which is a 2mm needle, and I tried the little circulars again, but I used the Addy Easy Rocket circulars, which are 10 inches, but the one on the left, which I hold in my left, is a little bit longer than the needle on the right. I don't have them with me, but I wanted to experiment with that, and I actually didn't mind it too much, although I did switch down after the and did the heel flap and gusset with magic loop, and I think I might have switched back to trying the circulars for the foot and then closed up using the magic loop. So I'm kind of switching back and forth, and yeah, so I'll get this figured out eventually. This was 64 stitches, and again, it was a Summerlee Basic Sock number 1 pattern. My next FO is not with me, it is packed away. I've already gifted it, of course, it's well past Christmas. I made the Good Tidings ornament, one of the Good Tidings ornament patterns from Susan B. Anderson in a long-standing tradition with my dear friend Erin. I always make her an ornament or a small gift at Christmas time, and this year also my tradition is I leave it right to the last minute, the day before we were about to go to the live theater. And I thought, well, how long can this take? Well, I did it in lace weight einband, and I wanted to try out the ash heather and the fuchsia color that I had, and I wanted it to be smaller than the ornaments in the Good Tidings pattern. So I think the Susan B. Anderson yarn that she actually uses a US 3 needle, and I used a US 1.5 2.5mm needle. Took me a minute to get the color work on this flower. Honestly, I started out using DPNs, then that wasn't working very good for my color work, and I almost ripped this out and gave up, but I didn't. I hung on. I did finish it. I did a steam block. No, I blocked it actually over a balloon. Then I steam blocked it and stuffed it with some, polyfill, and got it and gave it to her, and she loved it. But next year, Leanne, this is for future me, don't leave it to the last minute. Even a small ornament, this ended up being like 2.5 inches tall, takes some time, Oh my gosh, I did that last year too. So, I wanted to note another thing. I never did get around to knitting stockings for the cats, which was kind of one of the things I was playing with, that idea, making a cat stocking for each of my cats, and then one for my daughter, my grand cat. So I didn't do that this year, but yeah, got that one done. My next 2 items to discuss are 2 gift knits for my very knitworthy daughter, Anna. She actually requested a hot water bottle cozy. I do believe I mentioned this in my last episode. And she had received a normal sized hot water bottle, which is a 2-liter size. So I went out and I got some yarn from a local yarn shop in Calgary, Gina Brown's. And I got some Noro Tokonatsu, it's called, which is a very interesting blend. It's 40% cotton, 30% silk, and 30% viscose. And it just had the coolest little flecks of color in it. And I will show a picture of the finished hot water bottle cozy. But I don't know if you can see, this is all I have left of that. I used a US 8 5.5mm needle, and I cast it on 60 stitches with Judy's Magic Cast On, and I knit it from the bottom up and did some decreasing. I wasn't really super pleased with how it looked for some reason. I certainly didn't like it on the right side with the stockinette showing up for some reason, and I flipped it to the wrong side, and I gave it to my daughter for Christmas, and she loved it. But for some reason, I felt like it just looked a little wonky. I don't know, but so I wanted to get that ready, and she had asked last year for her favorite hat, and I started knitting her these sort of large chunky gauge toques when she was, I think, 13 years old, and I've made her a couple of them. But she was looking for a white one. That was last year. So I used the Hannah pattern by Shannon Cook, and I use US 13 9mm for the brim, US 15 10mm for the body, and I use Patton's North American Classic wool roving. That's really hard to say. Yeah, so I just follow the pattern, work the decreases, and it's a super quick knit. Like, you could do it in a couple hours, so I had that ready for her. So those 2 quick gift knits were for my daughter Anna. My next two finished objects are gift knits that I'm jumping ahead and going to be ready for 2025. I have made my third pair of Stockinette mitts, which is a paid pattern by Svetlana Volkova, known as Tweety Sheep on Instagram and Ravelry, I believe. This is a very simple pattern, knit from the bottom up. I make mine with Drops Alpaca Mix, which actually I think the pattern is designed in. Drops Alpaca Mix. The gauge is 25 stitches. It's relatively quick, especially if you make them small for small hands like mine. It does come in 5 sizes from extra small to extra large, and they're so quick. I just absolutely love the simplicity of it, and yeah, highly recommend these. And I'm going to put them in my gift basket and participate in Marie of Old Time Knits podcast. She has started a gift make-along called Get Gifting 2025 Make-Along. She started a thread on her Ravelry page. So I'm joining in, but I probably can't bring these because this is from this year. So it's starting from January and going to the end of the year. So I'm on that. So my next, I should probably put these on a sock blocker. Another pair of socks. I told you I got on the train. This again is the basic sock number 1 by Summerlee Knits, heel flap and gusset. And I was yarn curious. I have never ever used Knit Picks yarn, sock yarn before. I was gifted some Knit Picks yarn to do some dyeing from my friend Leslie in Lethbridge, but I've never used their sock yarn before, and I couldn't resist this color. I think I got this in a newsletter. Gets me every time. But how fun is that? This is their Felici, and the contrast heel there, that's a little bit more of the Volkova Arvetta and the marzipan. So again, I just did that basic sock recipe. This time I used 56 stitches, and I used a US 1 2.25. How fun is that self-striping yarn? Like, do I have the ball band somewhere where I can show you? I may have forgot that. I may have dropped the ball on that. But I think the colorway is called Lisa. Knit Picks, Felici, fingering weight in the Lisa colorway. So the only thing I've been changing with this so far is the toe. I prefer the Nancy Wheeler's round toe versus the one that Summerlee does in the book and on the basic sock number 1 pattern. I just find it a little bit more comfortable. I'm learning. Sock mojo going strong. My second last finished object is on its way to New Zealand for my friend Angela's 50th birthday. She requested, or she didn't really request it, but she mentioned that if I wanted to make her anything knitting, the only thing she could think of that would be very helpful would be a replacement to the hot water bottle cozy that I had made her in 2007, maybe even 2006. Now I made that hot water bottle with Misty Alpaca Cotton Silk, which has long been discontinued, I believe, and so I went back and I got some more of the Noro Tokonatsu, and Angela and I both share an affinity for green, and this color, oh, you know how I wasn't super fond of how my daughters looked in Stockinette? Well, the opposite is true of this. This color is crazy. It's color number 10. And it's got all the flecks of all the colors. So I will put a quick either video or photo of this finished hot water bottle, which has been sent off. Her birthday is February 13th, so I hope it gets there in time. I used a US 8 5mm needle, and I knit it from the bottom up in like as if doing a sweater from the bottom up, like a knit 2 purl 2. I did leave the bottom open, but because it grew a fair bit, it did cover the bottom. And then I just worked towards the top end on magic loop and started doing some decreasing toward the neck. And I'm going to put some detailed notes in my Ravelry page. All of the things that I have talked about today will be linked on my Ravelry page. I do tend to keep some essays on the things that I make in case I want to make them again. In this instance, I didn't have any notes on how I had made her original hot water bottle cozy, which would have been helpful. So maybe next time if she wants another one of these, in, let's say, 10 more years from now, then I can just replace that with the notes that I've been taking. So that's it. I have one more finished object to discuss with you, and I'm going to put it on. My final finished object is a Burgundy Dickie for my sister Mona. The color is coming through pretty good. It's looking a little bit more red and less dark. It's quite dark red, purple, burgundy colored. It is Malabrigo worsted, and she chose this color. I have an ongoing thing where I'm hoping that there's 5 of us girls that we can all have a Dickie, and I've got one. My oldest sister has one, and my second oldest sister has one. So it was just Mona and Wendy left, and now Mona's is done, and I think it turned out really well. This pattern is a free pattern from Drops called the 214-49B Winter Wisps Neck Warmer. I much prefer to call it a Dickie. The pattern I found was a little confusing, so I made detailed notes on how I did this, how I figured it out, based on working it from the top down in the round. So I'll just get up for you. I should actually I do have footage. I'm going to put that in here because rather than standing up and wheeling around on this noisy chair. So I use a US 8 for the collar, knit 2, purl 2, and then a US 9 flat to do the front panel till I almost run out of yarn, and then I pick up the back stitches. There we go. So you might have a video and me turning around, but it's just so cozy. Malabrigo worsted, you can't go wrong with that. I got it from Wool Warehouse, and I ordered it just before the strike, so I couldn't have these ready for Christmas. But they are very, very quick. Someone mentioned to me that they get cold on airplanes and that their back gets cold. So you could also wear it with the short side front and then the back side to keep your back warm in your jacket or wherever you might be finding that you need a little extra insulation. So anyway, that is my final finished object. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you a few fun facts. I missed that portion of my podcast, but I was having issues with the editing and having to do voiceovers while I did video. So before I launch into my footage of the yarn stores, I'm just going to tell you a few fun things about Kitchener, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to kick it old school. When I first started this podcast, I was just looking up fun facts on my iPad, and that's kind of what I'm doing here today. It makes it easier for editing purposes, but I thought these were pretty interesting facts. Kitchener is a city in the Canadian province of Ontario, located about 100 kilometers west of Toronto. It is one of 3 cities that make up the regional municipality of Waterloo, and as of 2021 had a population of 256,885. Kitchener was the first community in Ontario to obtain hydroelectric power from Niagara. The power was switched on October 11th, 1910. A statue of Kaiser William I was unveiled August 13th, 1897 in Victoria Park. The statue was thrown into the Park Lake during World War I as a result of anti-German feelings in the city. Kitchener has a couple of nicknames, according to what I found. K-Dub, so K and W, the Twin Cities, or KW, or the Lou. Why not Kitch, right? And Kitchener was known as Berlin until 1916, a referendum changed its name. Other things that I found is that there's 2 very prestigious universities in the area, Wilfrid Laurier University and the University of Waterloo. The average median age of people in Kitchener is 38 years old. And in the early 1800s, not 1816, German Mennonite families moved north from Pennsylvania and purchased the land upon which Kitchener is built upon. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and yeah, I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy the footage that I'm going to bring you right now, and I'll meet you back here. We'll discuss 3 whips, and then I'll wrap up the episode. Good morning, and welcome to the vlog portion of my podcast. Today I'm going to head out to Galt House of Yarn, which is something I had planned to do the very last time I was here in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. And today's the day, even though according to the weather forecast, there's extreme cold temperature conditions. And I looked and it's minus 15 degrees Celsius. With wind chill, that's minus 22. But for me, an Alberta girl, that is not that extreme. That is, a cold day. Anything minus 35 and onward, yes. But anyways, for my American friends, that's minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit today. But I do have a company-issued parka jacket that is more like a sleeping bag. I've got my On the Sea Train hat by Espace Tricot. Asked me about this hat. I've knit a dozen of them. I love it so much. It's lightweight and very warm and woolly. And I'm not walking to Galt House of Yarn because it is in Cambridge, which is a 18-minute car ride from where I'm staying. It would be like a 3-hour walk. So I'm not that extreme, but I'm going to rent a car and pop over there. And I do have another stop that I'm going to check out as well. I think it's right on the way. I looked it up on Google. So another positive thing is, since I was here last time, they have opened a Starbucks in the lobby of this hotel. Yay! So I'm gonna grab myself an Americano or maybe an oat milk latte if I'm feeling fancy, and let's get going. Well, I wasn't feeling fancy. I just went for an Americano. They still have the Christmas cups going on at Starbucks. And it is brisk out here, but it's sunny and I'm feeling adventuresome. So I just have to walk across the parking lot here and there's a car rental place. So I am almost there already, and then I'm off to Galt. Okay, I've been here for a while already. There's been people in the store nonstop, so I haven't really wanted to film until I know that it's empty. But oh my gosh, it is so good. They've got a lot of the things that I love, including a tremendous selection of Istex, sock yarn for days, which is incredible. They've got kits and lots of samples. I could spend a long time in here. Okay, so Wendy at Galt House of Yarn had suggested I pop out to Guelph. And it is a funky town, really nice. And she mentioned that Woolwich Fine Yarns is downtown in a cool location. So I'm just here and I'm gonna go and hang out with Jill, the owner, for a minute. I had a nice visit with Jill. She's actually not the owner. Her and her dear friend Emma actually owns the shop. But I kind of left it. I didn't realize how long it would take me to get out here, and now it's after 5, so everything is shutting down. And I take back about the chilliness. It's actually super cold right now. I would love to explore Guelph further. It looks like a really funky, cool town. But I gotta head back to the hotel. Welcome back to the Works in Progress segment of my video. I hope you enjoyed the footage from Kitchener and Guelph. And now I'm going to show you my works in progress. I've got 3 of them, and then I'll wrap this episode up and get ready for the super early wake-up call. Work in progress number 1, and it's so close to being ready to start the back. This is another Dickie. This is Wendy's Dickie that I've got going on. So what I've got left to do is a little bit longer on the front and then some ribbing. And then this is what I do. I just lost the stitch stopper there, but I hold the back stitches and then I work until I've got about 20 grams left is usually, I think that's how I've weighed it out. This is my 5th one, so I'm getting good at this. This is another skein of Malabrigo worsted. Look at that color. It's called Mystery Purple. Wendy picked this one out as well. I'll pop it on for you because I like to wear my whips. Again, all the notes for how I make this little neck warmer are in my Ravelry notes. And there's pictures as well, so if that helps with stitch counts and where to put your markers and whatnot. See, it'll be a little bit longer. And then I'll just pick up the back stitches, work it down, and then I think we need to get a sister's picture of all of us wearing our Dickies. Yay! So this one's not a surprise because both my sisters picked out their colors, so the camera's showing it pretty good. It's more of like a royal purple. It's got a lot of blue undertones as well, so I think it's going to look gorgeous on my sister Wendy. So that's work in progress number 1. The other work in progress, I wanted to give you a little update. The sisters' collaboration of the Jethro crochet cardigan. It is still a work in progress. We were kind of looking at some of the solid black crochet squares, thinking they might be a little bit too dominant. And then there might have, I think Mona was thinking she might change those out a little bit, but I am just waiting for when it's my turn. I get to do the button band and the arms in the knitting and finish them. So anyway, stay tuned for that. I'm sure sometime before the summer they'll be all put together, and yeah, so all this matchy sister stuff, I'm here for it. Cute warning on the next 2 works in progress. Are you ready? If you saw the thumbnail, you know what this is. Ah, come on. This is, it's a half-finished object actually, and I'm well on the way to finishing off these socks. Oh my gosh, really? They just make me so happy. This pattern is called Crunching Carrots. It's by Charlotte Stone. It fully sunk me and I had to get that book immediately. And I have never done colorwork socks quite this extensive. I've done a little bit on the cuff and I did a worsted weight version before. So what I did actually around, I think it might have been mid-December, whenever I started these. She has a class on Domestika, and it's her colorwork class on how she does her socks. And I was just super curious, like, what does she use? What techniques does she use? And that class was only $1.99, so I got it. And she teaches you how to knit. Like, I was able to skip over a couple of the courses because I'm like, well, I know how to cast on and knit and purl. So how thorough is that? So going from a brand new beginner to making a pair of socks for someone, you know, I've made socks and I've been knitting for a while, but anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And her technique is she picks up and puts down, picks up and puts down. That's how she does her color work and keeps her tension okay. Let me show you my tension. Okay, so I have gone back to holding one in each hand for the cuffs so far. That's what's been working for me. I will insert a picture because they fit, even though they do look a little bit large because she increases the stitches and then you go up a needle size for the colorwork sections, including the little baby carrots at the toe. But once you put it on, once I blocked it, it's not. So it kind of went like skinny, bulgy, and then back down to, yeah. But after I blocked it, it was fine. I'm using some scrap of Ginger Snap Speckled Sage for the green. This is actually Biche Bouche for the carrot top. This is some Koigu KPM. I had a lot of that. I love it. And then this is a German brand, Sock and Wool Comfort, H&W. It's got little flecks of colors. I just think it looks so good. And yeah, so I just have to zoom down towards the toe, finish off, and make sure I don't go too long. Like, I think it's 2 inches from the bottom where you start doing the little color work on the toes. So far so good. This is again my sock knitting journey, and then sock knitting with colorwork journey is a whole other ball game. So how fun is this? I might have to make some other colorwork socks after this and figure out my tension. I was trying to measure my tension. I wanted to talk about this. I'm having a heck of a time measuring my tension, like especially in a dark colored yarn. Even when I hold everything very still and like count, all of a sudden halfway through my eyes just like, no, we're not getting to 4 inches here. We're gonna stop and lose track at 3. But I think I'm pretty sure that I'm getting 32 stitches in the colorwork section on the US 1.5, I believe is what you go up to, and then 34 stitches with a US 1. For the colorwork area, I use the Addy Easy Rockets because I just find my colorwork goes better on that, and I can stretch it out but not too far. Anyway, stay tuned on my colorwork obsession. These are the Crunching Carrot socks by Charlotte Stone. It's my final work in progress. So if you've been following me for a while, you will recall, I think August of 2022, that my nephew Ethan had loved his robot Stuffy that I made him before he was born to death. Like, this thing had exploded all of its bits mostly, and so I made a replacement, Louie the Lovebot, which is a pattern by Rebecca Danger. And recently, I think during the summer, which I guess that's not that recent, but he lost the replacement robot and still has Louie #1, thankfully. But he sent me the cutest picture and voice note asking if Auntie would make him another robot. So this is Louie the Lovebot #3. Louie the Third is underway. I started working on it from the time I've been here. Oh, I like how maybe the light's catching it a little bit because I'm using reflective yarn. So when the light catches it, it glows a little bit. So I've got his body going on, and what I need to do is get the safety eyes put in. Oh, it is catching. And then you Kitchener stitch the top and put on the little ear bolts, and then the arms and legs go on afterwards. I am using yarn called Reflex by Viking Garn, which you actually can get. They have it on their website actually, and I did the exchange and it was actually very reasonable. I think, yeah, it was $5 Canadian, unless I'm doing the wrong translation of kroners. But this is what I'm making it in. It takes very little. And it's interesting because I've had this pattern since I believe 2011, and right after I made Louie number 2, Rebecca Danger released the pattern for free on her blog, which is called Be in the Studio. I'll link everything below. And very generous. I would highly suggest putting a donation in her Ko-Fi for that because it's such a great little pattern. But she's also updated it to make it more seamless. Whereas before there was a lot of knitting, say the robot's hand, knitting it upwards and attaching it. And she has, as I was reading through the blog while I was working on him, she now has, you put in stitch markers where you're, for example, she's like, do the 3 rounds of the head and then place stitch markers, and that's where you start to make the ear bolts. And she has the same going for the body, and which is great because then you get placement right, which can be the tricky part when it comes to making toys. So anyway, that is my final work in progress. I will get that done as soon as I can for my little great nephew Ethan, who loves his Dewey. He calls it Dewey, not Louie. And so yeah, happy to whip that out for him as soon as I can and get some safety eyes on him. I hope I have some. The last 2 they were blue safety eyes, which I had ordered from a maker on Etsy called 50/50 Eyes. So, all right, everybody, that is it. I'm going to bid you adieu because the light is going away. And I need to wrap up and get ready for the early morning, which I've probably said like too many times already. Thank you so much for watching, and please let me know what 2025 is looking like for you, and what maybe your knitting plans are. I do appreciate everyone spending their time with me today, and I'm not sure where I'll come at you from next time. I bid for my schedule for February. It's not really facilitating much podcasting, so just stay tuned. I hope you'll follow me along wherever we end up, but at this point I don't know where I will be next, but hope to see you then. Bye bye.